Some action movies become legends, others get laughed out of theaters. And then there's a third category, the ones that don't quite work, but still keep us watching. They're messy, they're loud, and most of them weren't supposed to be remembered, but here we are. This is the top 20 action movie guilty pleasures, a countdown of the most flawed, forgotten, and flat out ridiculous action flicks we just can't stop loving. So here's the question, if these movies didn't work, why do they still hit so hard? Let's find out. By the time we got to Superman 3, it was clear this franchise had flown into a nosedive. Gone were the epic stakes of the first two films. Instead, we got Richard Pryor playing a computer hacker who accidentally becomes a supervillain's sidekick, synthetic kryptonite turning Superman into a sleazy, boozed-up jerk, and one of the weirdest man versus himself fights ever filmed. But there's something hypnotic about its chaos. Christopher Reeve still gives it everything he's got, and the evil Superman arc, as stupid as it sounds, is actually kinda cool. It's not a good movie, but it's so watchable. In the aftermath of a global plague, a cyborg carrying the key to a cure is captured by a gang of roaming killers. Jean-Claude Van Damme plays Gibson Rickenbacker, not her protector, but a man out for revenge. He's not saving the world. He just wants to kill the guy who took everything from him. Cyborg is dirty, violent, and shot on leftover sets from a cancelled Masters of the Universe sequel. The story barely holds together, but the mood is pure Canon Films grit.
Your turn! 1, 2, 3, kick!
TMNT 3 takes the turtles out of the sewers and drops them into feudal Japan, and it loses most of what made the first two movies work. But there's still something entertaining about watching the turtles play samurai, the fish out of water chaos, the clunky but charming action scenes, and Elias Koteas back as Casey Jones. Even if he's barely used, give it just enough heart to keep it watchable. It's a mess, but it's a weird, colorful, totally sincere mess, and that's why it sticks.
I have to stop all this!
In Mega City 1, the law is absolute, and in this version, so is Stallone's screen presence. Judge Dredd had the budget, the sets, the look, and then took off the helmet. The tone jumps between grim dystopia and campy comedy, thanks in part to Rob Schneider mugging through half the runtime. The story's a mess of clones, corrupt judges, and shouting. But the visuals are stunning, the practical sets are massive, and Stallone still owns every scene like it's 1985. It's loud, dumb, and all over the place, but it's also pure 90s sci-fi excess, and for that, it still hits. They gave Van Damme a military crew cut and asked him to play the all-American Guile. Characters were crammed in whether the plot needed them or not. The fights barely resembled the game, and the tone felt like a cartoon that couldn't decide who it was for. But Raul Julia's performance is legendary. He delivers every line like he's doing Shakespeare in a thunderstorm. The costumes are bright, the sets are wild, and the whole thing moves with the energy of a kid smashing action figures together. It doesn't work the way it should, but somehow it's too entertaining to ignore. By the third film, Rambo wasn't just a one-man army, he was a geopolitical weapon. This time, he ditches the jungle for Afghanistan, taking on an entire Soviet battalion to rescue his old commander, Colonel Troutman. Subtlety is out the window. Rambo shoots down helicopters, blows up tanks on horseback, and turns military-grade warfare into a solo act. The plot barely matters, it's just an excuse to stack explosions, body counts, and slow-motion kill shots. It caught heat later for its awkward politics, but in the moment, it delivered exactly what 80s action fans wanted: muscle, mayhem, and a lead who never blinks. Not the smartest entry, but definitely one of the loudest. Arnold plays Jack Slater, a fictional movie cop who gets pulled into the real world by a magic ticket, and suddenly finds out explosions don't solve everything. Audiences were expecting another Terminator-style action flick. What they got was a self-aware satire stuffed with in-jokes, cameos, and genre send-ups. But once you know what it's doing, the chaos becomes part of the fun. Schwarzenegger plays it straight in a movie that mocks every action trope he helped invent. It's wild, messy, and completely unafraid to punch holes in its own logic. In a future where the rich live underground and the poor fight for scraps on the surface, Billy Blanks plays a cybercop who turns rogue after a corrupt system leaves his partner dead. The plot's bare bones. Think RoboCop meets Mad Max on a fitness video budget, but the action is constant. Blanks brings raw energy, Bolo Yeung shows up to break faces, and every scene feels like it's one roundhouse kick away from total collapse. There's clunky acting, awkward tech talk, and enough neon to light up a mall, but the fights hit hard, and the pacing never lets up. It's cheap, fast, and kicks like it means it. Lauren Avedon and Keith Vitale play estranged brothers. One's a clean-cut government agent, the other's a hot-headed martial arts instructor. When their father's assassinated by terrorists, they team up to kick their way through every bad guy they find. This sequel has nothing to do with the first two films, but nobody cares. The acting is wooden, the dialogue is straight from a VHS rental bin, and the plot makes zero effort to explain anything. But the fight scenes? Fast, clean, and full of insane energy. It's non-stop action, barely held together by a plot, and that's exactly what fans came for. George Clooney sleepwalks through the cowl, Chris O'Donnell returns as a whiny Robin, and Alicia Silverstone shows up as Batgirl with no real backstory. But here's the thing, it never pretends to be serious. It's loud, ridiculous, and laser-focused on style over substance. The production design is eye-melting, the costumes are absurd, and the whole thing moves like a theme park ride that's about to derail. It's the wrong movie for the right reasons, and it's never boring. Bruce Willis is Eddie Hudson Hawk, a master thief fresh out of prison, pulled back in to steal a series of ancient inventions linked to Leonardo da Vinci. It tanked at the box office and confused just about everyone. But there's a weird charm in how committed it is to its own madness. Willis plays it cool, the action is slick, and the whole thing moves like it knows it's ridiculous and just doesn't care. It's a total oddball, but once you're in its rhythm, it's hard to look away. Daniel Bernhardt steps in for Van Damme as Alex Cardo, a thief who gets caught trying to steal an ancient sword and ends up fighting in a deadly underground tournament. It's low budget, but Bernhardt holds his own. The fights are clean, fast, and tightly choreographed. There's no flash, just old school martial arts shot the way it's meant to be. Wide angles and real contact. The acting is stiff, the dialogue's flat, but for fans of tournament flicks, it delivers where it counts. Thomas Jane plays Frank Castle, an undercover agent whose entire family is massacred by a vengeful crime boss. Left for dead, he reemerges as a quiet, methodical force of payback. Not a superhero, just a man with a plan and nothing to lose. Jane brings a calm intensity, and the fight scenes are sudden, brutal, and to the point. It's not flashy, but it's got teeth.
Jimbo?
Set in a post-quake version of Los Angeles, Double Dragon follows two brothers, Billy and Jimmy Lee, as they fight off a gang-run city while trying to protect a mystical medallion. None of it really works, but it's never dull. The fights are goofy but fun, the pacing is quick, and the whole thing plays like someone tried to cram 4 Saturday morning cartoons into one movie. It's loud, awkward, and impossible to forget.
I'm back.
John Connor's off the grid, Judgment Day was supposedly stopped, and then a new Terminator shows up. This time, a female model called the TX, sent to finish what the T-1000 couldn't. Arnold's back, older and stiffer but still iconic, and the action is heavy on destruction. The tone's uneven, and the characters feel thinner. But when the action hits, it's practical, massive, and unapologetic. It doesn't rewrite the rules, but it leaves a crater. Mortal Kombat Annihilation is loud, rushed, and overloaded with characters. Recasts happen without explanation. The CGI looks like it was rendered in a video toaster, and the script reads like it was written during a lightning storm. But somehow, that chaos becomes its own kind of fun. The martial arts are clunky but enthusiastic, the costumes are spot on, and every scene feels like a cutscene come to life. It's a disaster, but it never stops trying to entertain. A serial killer is targeting martial artists across New York, leaving behind bodies marked by what looks like tiger-style kung fu. The story's simple, but the setup is solid. Cop drama mixed with martial arts mystery. The acting's stiff, the pacing drags in places, and some scenes feel like they were edited with a chainsaw. But once the fights start, the movie knows exactly what it's doing. Rothrock delivers clean, sharp choreography. Bolo Yeung shows up with the quiet menace only he can bring, and the vibe is pure early 90s VHS, grainy, punch-heavy, and strangely hypnotic. Sasha Mitchell takes over as David Sloan, younger brother of Kurt, who's now running a gym and trying to move past the violence. That doesn't last long. Tong Po returns, and David's pulled back into the ring whether he wants to fight or not. Mitchell doesn't have Van Damme's screen presence, but he brings more vulnerability, more hesitation. There's less flash this time and a lot more burn. The tone is darker, the fights feel more punishing, and Tong Po is still a terrifying screen presence. Chad McQueen plays a tough cop with a black belt and a short fuse. Cynthia Rothrock plays his partner, and every scene she's in feels tighter, sharper, and way more alive. The plot is standard cop movie stuff. Drugs, gangs, dirty money, but the real draw is the action. It's all about fast kicks, quick cuts, and that raw, low-budget energy that defined early 90s video shelf classics. The acting's uneven, the story goes exactly where you think it will, but when McQueen and Rothrock throw down, the film delivers. No frills, just fights. John Shaft Jr. is a cyber analyst with an FBI background and zero street instincts. When his best friend dies under suspicious circumstances, he tracks down the one man who might help, his estranged father. What follows is a generational collision of styles, values, and body counts. This sequel tries to merge old-school grit with modern awkwardness, and not everyone was on board. The jokes hit below the belt, the tone leans heavier into comedy than action, and the story feels more like a buddy movie than an action crime thriller. But Jackson doesn't phone it in. He's loud, sharp, and still walks like the coolest guy in the room. Richard Roundtree's return adds legacy weight. The action is minimal, but the banter never stops. None of these movies are perfect. A lot of them weren't even liked when they came out. They've got awkward pacing, flat performances, cheap effects, and scripts that barely hold together. But here's the thing, they don't hide what they are. And in a world full of safe, polished studio projects, there's something magnetic about a film that's flawed but fearless. They weren't made to win awards, they were made to entertain, and they still do. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content.